Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Not For Nothing. I am your host, Joe Capobianco, and I am here in Detroit, Michigan, outside of Detroit, Michigan, visiting a good friend of mine. They're always good friends for the most part, which I'm super happy to still say I have. This one I came specifically to Detroit to talk to, someone I've known for many years. Pretty much right after you started tattooing.
Yeah.
I picked you. We got to meet one another.
Yeah.
Just for shits and giggles, why don't you let everybody know who you are, just so, I mean, I can't imagine they don't, but.
I'm Bob Tyrrell. I've been tattooing for 28 years. I started in 1997 at the age of 34. Started a little bit late, but best thing I ever did in my life, man. So it's super happy to be here. Happy to be here talking to you after tattooing for 28 years. I think I've known you for almost the whole 28 years.
I want to say so you started what year?
1997.
97, and I started in 93. So you started tattooing, I met you the first time, I think, in New Hampshire when you guys came up. Is that the first time I met you guys?
I figured it'd be before that.
I thought so too. And you know, I've had that conversation with Jimmy because, like I said, I'd met Jimmy in passing a couple of times, but I didn't know exactly when the first time was.
I don't remember either, man.
Yeah, it's the worst, dude, when you start figuring out, like, you know.
Right.
But so how did you get your start? Like when you, I mean, it's funny, like talking to someone who's been doing this for as long as you have, and at your age, like you started at a really young age. You used to be, explain how that came about. You used to be a cabinet maker, right?
I made kitchen countertops and bathroom countertops, you know, and we sold cabinets and made the countertops. So I did that from 1982 to 1997. I was there 15 years.
And what spurred I mean, getting into tattooing, were you heavily tattooed back then, or?
Yeah, well, so I got my first tattoo right before I turned 30. Like a month before I turned 30, and I used to go into tattoo shops like for 10 years before then, since I was about 19, I think, when I wanted to get a tattoo, you know. I'd walk into a shop, you know, and back then it's like I was probably going to the worst shops in the city, you know. I walk in and like there's someone sitting there and, you know, they don't say a word to you.
Yeah,
hey, how you doing? You need any help, you know? And nothing, you know. So I walk in, so I figure I had to pick something off the wall. And so I'm, you know, looking, you know, never saw anything I wanted, you know, and I did that for like probably every couple of years for about a 10-year period. I remember being in Chicago, and we went in a shop, and I saw some tribal armbands on the wall, and I remember like, well, this guitarist Rick Hunold from Exodus has a tribal armband. That looks kind of cool. Maybe I'll do that. And thank God I didn't, you know.
Yeah, right, exactly. So you don't have any cover-up tribal armbands, then?
Nope.
Nice.
Nope.
Very smart, considering you're into the bands and stuff like that. You know,
yeah, you know,
because it's a pretty safe bet you would have gotten something like that, given the opportunity.
I would have got some crap, and I started getting crap. I mean, when I finally decided, okay, I'm turning 30 next month, I got to get tattooed now, and so I went to the closest shop to the house here, which was down Gratiot here.
Right.
And I don't want to name any names, but they turned out they were like the worst shop in town. And at one point, they had like 9 shops around the Detroit area.
Oh shit!
And they had a reputation. I found out after the fact, you know, that they were pretty much the worst shop in town. And but I went in there, and I'm looking at the walls, didn't see anything, and they had like a tabletop with binders on there with designs. So I'm going through one of those, and I saw this little. It looked like almost like a ballpoint pen drawing of Eddie from Iron Maiden.
Oh, that's sweet.
The band's mascot, you know, the demon.
Yeah, Eddie Maiden,
everybody knows who Eddie is.
I was gonna say, I can't imagine they don't know who Eddie Maiden is.
So I got that. It's
You still have it?
You see him in here?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Fuck
so I got
yeah.
that.
So you kept your first one.
Kept my first one.
I still have my first one. I've just had it covered up. Not covered up. I've had it redone. I'm sorry. I've had it redone. Because it was from 91, I think. 90 or 91 I got it.
Okay.
And it was at that time would have been like a single needle cartoon. So it was like the lines were like that, you know, like, so, yeah, so it needed to touch up. It needed to be redone. So
yeah, that's, yeah. But I Well, actually, Paul had went over it because, so, like, long story short, I got that first crappy tattoo scabbed up, giant scabs, and I went back and he touched it up, and still didn't heal right, you know.
Nice.
But then I discovered Eternal Tattoos. It just opened. It turns out they had just opened a second shop because they were on the west side of Detroit. And
They have like what, four or five shops in
the
Detroit?
5 shops.
Five
yeah,
shops.
There were. Tramp just shut one of them down, so
Right.
there's 4 shops, and then Marshall Bennett bought the one.
The
Over
one
here
up
by
the
house.
road from here, yeah.
But it's still Eternal.
Yeah.
You know. So there's 4 of them now. But they had back then. I was driving down Gratiot, and I was like, oh, Eternal Tattoos. It was brand new, you know. And so I had heard about the shop on the west side, but never. It's almost like it's too far to go. I'm an
Right.
east side guy, so just, you know. But I'm like, oh, I heard of Eternal, man. And so I went in there, and there was one guy in there, a young kid. He was like 18. It turned out he had just started tattooing, you know, but I didn't know that. But so I went in there and started talking to that guy, and, you know, told him I just wanted to get a tattoo, and I wanted to get, you know, some skulls or some kind of anything horror related. And he had some drawings of some skulls he did that were actually pretty cool, you know.
Nice.
They're way better than the last shop.
Yeah, than the last shop you were in.
So I got a piece on this arm to balance
match
it
it,
out.
kinda.
I'm all about symmetry. So he had done this skull here,
Yeah.
and then this swirl thing that there were a bunch of little skulls in it. But I ended up kept going back to him. You know, he's a cool dude. And,
Who was it?
a guy named Shannon. Shannon Nicholas was his
Okay.
name, and he passed away. So I got this whole upper arm done by him, and then he worked around that eddy and got my whole upper arm. It was real light shading, so they were really light. You know, they're pretty cool designs and stuff. But,
And you were automatically drawn to doing like the black and gray stuff, or
yeah,
like
I
getting the black and
knew
gray?
I wanted just black and gray from the get-go.
right?
You know, although another story I'll get to. So anyway, while he was working on both my arms, I discovered tattoo magazines for the first time.
Okay.
And I saw an article on Paul Booth in Tattoo Magazine, and I think that was his first article. This was around '92. So Paul had been tattooing 3 years at that point.
Right.
But I'm like, oh my God, that's exactly the kind of work I want to get on
Like
me.
just evil,
Just-
like, I mean, and it wasn't, not to say that people weren't doing that kind of stuff, but to that level with that much originality, I don't think
Yeah.
you saw a lot of that.
People were doing skulls and maybe you know, demon heads or
Right.
something. But Paul like brought the real horror element.
Yeah.
And I think he's the first guy to do like true
Like,
creepy horror.
yeah,
stuff.
not copying somebody else's designs. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It was actually, he had his own voice in the business. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? As far as like what he was producing.
Yep.
You know. So.
And so right then, I called the number that was in the article and left a message. Didn't hear anything, and then I called back a couple weeks later and said I wanted to get a full back piece. And Barbara, his girlfriend at the time,
Right.
called me right back that day. And so I went out. Then there was a convention going on, the Tattoo Tour convention in Chicago in '93.
Okay.
And so I called to see if maybe we could start it there. And he was booked for the show, but he was doing a guest spot at Mad Jack's shop. Do you remember Mad
Yeah,
Jack?
I remember the shop. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, I remember the name. I don't remember the shop. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So I went there and he outlined my back. He drew it on. He's like, I'll draw something on. If you don't like it, I'll draw something else. But he drew that on. I'm like, oh my God, it's a pure quintessential Paul Booth. You know, I'm like,
Right.
yeah, I love it. So he only had time for the outline, so it took like 2 hours and outlined my whole back. And then he was booked for 3 months at home. So 3 months later, we booked 3 days to shade my entire back in. And we got it done in 2 days.
Holy shit.
I remember
damn.
Paul saying, like, after we got it done, he said, I didn't even think we were going to finish in 3 days. So I didn't think I was going to handle it, you know, or whatever.
Right.
So, yeah, my whole back, like, I have pictures when it was fresh and that just dark red, sepia looking black and gray.
Right,
Fresh
right.
tattoo look.
And it was that was kind of a unique time too, because I mean, not that people weren't drawing designs on people at that time, but like to take such a chance with a relatively new artist. You're relatively new to getting tattooed. You know, that was kind of a big. I think that was kind of a big step. You know, I remember the first time I saw Paul working on people, like just drawing stuff on, was my first month or two tattooing, and watching him work, I was just kind of like, damn, this guy's just fucking going for it, and it is genuinely impressive to see, especially if you don't know any better. I'd only been in a shop for maybe 3 months when I'd seen it, so it was definitely impressive to see.
See people, seeing him freehand everything. Like that,
exactly,
you know?
exactly.
Still impresses me to this day.
So what spurred you getting into the business? I mean, considering what you were doing, like your dad's an artist too, and he's a hell of an artist.
Yeah, man.
You know,
my dad's the only job he had his entire life. Right out of high school, he went to the Center for Creative Studies downtown here. It's called the College for Creative Studies now. Right. Both the Kern brothers went there.
Oh shit, I didn't know that.
Tim and James Kern went there. Yeah.
Okay.
So my dad was there a couple of years and started having kids. He had my sister, and then he had me. They were young. You know, my dad was 20, my mom was 18 when he got married. So my dad was 22 when I popped out.
Right.
And so he had kind of had to get a job and support the family. So he left there and got a job at an art firm. Right, you know,
doing like work for hire kind of stuff, or like
he's a commercial illustrator, so
right.
He did everything. And at some point, he went freelance, and actually, he had an office for a while. And then the house we lived in, we had an open porch attached to the side.
So like a home studio kind of thing.
Yeah, he closed that up and made a studio. It was really
nice.
Cool. But that's So I was, you know, when I was a little kid, I wanted to be an artist when I grew up, like my dad. I was drawing all the time when I was a kid, drawing stuff from Mad Magazine and
right.
Creepy and Eerie magazine with the Frank Frazetta covers and stuff. Frazetta's still my all-time favorite artist.
Yeah,
man.
I saw it on your on the back of your cell phone.
Yeah.
Did you ever get to go to the museum, the Frazetta Museum?
Death dealer. I went to the one in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, that's an impressive.
Dude, you been there?
I've been there a bunch of times. We were fortunate enough that before he passed away, the first time we went to it was when it was on the 3rd floor of the building in downtown. And then I went there twice with friends. And this is going back into like, I think it was like 88, 89, I think.
Wow.
That's when the first time I'd ever gone there. And then they moved it eventually to the private, to their property. And we'd been there a couple times. And I was fortunate enough to get to meet him a handful of times and talk to him. This is when he's pretty old at that time. His wife was really, really friendly, super friendly, and she at one time she went up to the house to get him, to have him come down and meet us and stuff. So it was a lot of fun, and it was just it is incredible to meet somebody like that, because you do put them on a different pedestal. You know what I mean?
He was like a god to me.
Yeah. You know, I mean, for me, I wasn't I was an airbrush artist, so we were always biting, you know, Boris Vallejo or Frazetta and putting them on T-shirts and jackets and shit like that. Yeah. But and again, to get to meet him, to get to see the artwork up close and personal. The first time we went to the one that was on the 3rd floor, went with a friend of mine. This guy Joe Linsner, who's a comic book artist, and he literally walked up to the Death Dealer painting, put his hand out and touched the fucking painting. Oh, wow. And I'm like, dude, what are you fucking doing? He's like, dude, I touched the Death Dealer painting. Like, he was so jazzed by that. But yeah, for a couple of young cats that were just like, that knew nothing about anything outside of their own little bubble, you know, to be able to see the original artwork of that stuff was pretty impressive.
Dude.
And then to meet them is incredible as well.
Yeah, you're lucky, man. So I went there with, I was out doing a guest spot at Joe's shop.
Right.
He's got a shop in Pennsylvania.
Oh, Joe Johns.
Close to that. Joe, yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what? I think it was after one of his conventions. No, wait a minute. Oh, it was after the old, that used to do those Forge and Ink.
Oh, the Forge and Ink convention. Yeah, those were great shows back in the day.
They were. So I was doing a guest spot after, and so Tommy Painter was still sticking around too. Ah. So me, Joe, and Tommy Painter went to the museum, and we walked in, and Frank, his wife Ellie, was in there, and Frank was still alive, but yeah, he wasn't over there that day. But she ended up walking us around the whole thing and talking about the paintings and stuff. And but I remember like just looking at them, like seeing the clumps of oil paint on them and stuff like that. You don't see that in prints. You know?
No, you don't get to see it. And then on top of that, when you can see the brush strokes and how he's working, and then some of the stuff is literally just on raw masonite. You know what I mean? No background, just the brown of the masonite, and that's the background of the painting. And when you hear the stories behind it and why he did that, was mainly out of time. You know, not having the time and not having the supplies on hand to just grab a. He claimed he grabbed a floorboard out of the attic or something like that and painted on that, and that's the fucking painting that's on the wall now.
Yeah.
You know?
You might have to do one on it because he was famous for waiting to a day before the deadline.
Exactly.
You know?
Like the kids used to say, like they'd come home and get ready to go to bed, and you know, Dad's making a pot of coffee downstairs. They know he's got a deadline he's got to meet. You know, so it's funny a little bit of that is kind of rubbed off on you because you're kind of the same thing. Everything's like last fucking minute. You know,
same way.
You know.
Yeah. He would put a painting out on the windowsill to help dry it.
Yeah, exactly.
Shit,
exactly. It's so silly shit. So,
yeah, dude.
You know.
But that was amazing. So, so getting back, I guess, to what got me into tattooing. I got addicted to getting tattoos right away, you know. And so after I got that back piece from Paul, 6 months later, I went and he did my entire left sleeve. So he redid all that old stuff I had, so it would look kind of consistent because it was so light. And then Mario Bart did my right sleeve in '96.
Oh shit, I didn't realize
still
that.
Wasn't tattooing.
I should have recognized that too. Yeah.
And he redid my old stuff too. At that time, he was going to be a partner with the guy at a tattoo shop here, because then he had a shop in Graz, and that was it. And he was looking to open up, you know, like do something in the States. So he was going to apprentice me originally. He wow,
that would have been a completely different, you know, experience. I think, you know,
it would have been just as good. And Mario was doing amazing black and gray portraits at that time too, which a lot of people don't realize. He was so when it was the very first Detroit show in '96, and I called that shop because I heard about the convention and to ask who was coming to the show.
Right.
And he told me, he said, Mario Bart's coming and he's doing a guest spot here the week before. I'm like, so I got an appointment. And at that time, because I was a big Mario Bart fan already, you know, from the magazines, but I don't remember seeing any black and gray work from Mario.
No, I have a huge color piece on my upper arm from him.
Right on, man. But all I saw was color, and I'm like, but I loved his work. And I'm like, so at that point, even the day I went to the shop to get my tattoo, Mario was late, but I had in my mind, okay, I'm going to get a color piece from Mario on my calf. And then I had this idea, maybe I'll do both my legs full color and do my entire upper body black and gray.
Yeah, that's a typical way of thinking.
It didn't work out that way. So, but I got there and I'm looking through his portfolio. He was a little late getting there, and I saw a bunch of black and gray work in there. I'm like, damn, he does some killer black and gray. So I'm thinking, maybe I'll have him do my other sleeve, you know, and if like he would agree to go over this stuff, which he did. I said, cool, I'm gonna do a sleeve. So he did this forearm was the first piece I got. It was a big piece. And then
he's another one, works super quick.
Super
fast, yeah.
And so at that point he told me he was gonna be a partner with this guy, and he was gonna be working in Detroit, you know, part-time here and there. So the next time he came, he redid the old stuff. And then the last sitting was 3 sittings total. The last sitting, he did this whole inside chunk in like 7 hours.
Sweet.
Big ass area. But it was that second sitting, I asked, because he was going to be there on a part-time basis, I asked if he did apprenticeships. And he said, maybe, can you show me, you know, some drawings or something? So at that time, I was taking my last art class because getting tattooed right away. I hadn't drawn since high school, so it had been like 13 years when I drew again for the first time. I was 31, I remember, and I was getting tattooed, and I'm like, I wonder if I can still draw. So I got a pencil and I started drawing skulls, and it's like, wow, I can still draw, you know.
I still got this.
But it was like when I was shading, like I would draw a skull and my own weird looking skull, and when I was shading, I was kind of just shading on the outside coming in, leaving a bunch of open paper. Kind
of like the old school biker or high school, you know, shit,
no light source, you know. And so my ex-wife, she goes, you should take a night class at the community college, you know. So I did. I took basic drawing 1, and dude, I learned so much
in that one class.
And right away, I was like, oh my God, you know, how light falls on objects, and, you know, doing still life drawings there. And introduced me to charcoal, which I don't know if I ever did use it in school. I don't remember, in like school art class or something. So I just fell in love with drawing, bro. And then at that point, I started doing big charcoal. I love charcoal from the get-go. And I started doing these big 18 by 24 charcoal portraits of like old horror stuff, the Mummy, and Frankenstein's monster,
right,
and Dracula, and all that.
I was gonna say, you definitely seem to have a love for the old Universal monsters, and like the classics.
Yeah,
you know?
I grew up with Famous Monsters of Filmland magazine since I was 7 years old.
Yeah.
So I grew up with horror from as long as I can remember.
Right out of the
4
gate.
or 5 years old or whatever. As long as I can remember that, you know, watching that stuff on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah.
You know, we had Sir Graves Ghastly in Detroit. You know, some cities had their own horror host.
Oh, for real? I didn't know that. Like almost like an Elvira, like a late night kind of thing. Yeah.
So Sir Graves Ghastly was in Detroit, and we had the Ghoul. The Ghoul was in Cleveland.
Right.
But we got him in Detroit. You know, he was on Saturday night at like 11:30, and so that I love the Ghoul. We all love the Ghoul in the Midwest area.
Yeah, it's funny. We didn't. I don't think we had. I mean, I'm sure we had something similar to it in New York, but most of the stuff, like I grew up with the same thing. Universal monsters. Like I used to have an old, the old academic, like books that you just draw, like you just write in, and I used to fill that thing up with like pictures of the Mummy, Frankenstein, werewolf, because I liked that kind of horror when I was a kid.
Yeah.
But the older I got, the more I got into color and like the pinup thing and the classics and stuff like that. And then I still have a love for it, but not to the degree that it steered anything in my career in any way, shape, or form. You know.
Yeah.
So.
But I love doing drawings and that stuff because like those photos from that era, then like 1930s.
Yeah.
The amazing fucking photos, all with super heavy light sources.
I was gonna say super graphic as well.
That Frankenstein's monster like underlit.
Yeah.
You know.
All the texture in the face.
Yeah. Dude, and so that stuff is great at first I was drawing it, but then tattooing it. That's my favorite stuff to tattoo, is those old Universal monsters still. Right. You know. Right. I don't know how many Frankenstein's monsters I've done, but a shit ton.
Yeah.
And I never get sick of it.
That's
never.
Cool. I was like that with the Bride of Frankenstein for a long time. I did a million Bride of Frankenstein heads.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was like the thing. But I mean, doing it in my style.
Did you see the one hanging?
I did. You have the painting. Well, you have the print of the painting.
Yeah, I've got one of Joe's prints right inside the house.
Yeah, actually, Jimmy, I think, owns the original of it.
Oh,
Jimmy
no
Litwalk.
shit.
Yeah, he owns the original of it. Like, it's funny because I went down to visit him in Orlando, and it's sitting next to a stack of other paintings and pictures and stuff that just hasn't hung on the fucking walls. And I'm like, oh shit, you have the original of this? I totally forgot he had it. You know.
Why the fuck doesn't he have it on the wall?
Well, it's just where he's living right now. I think he doesn't want to put too many holes in the walls because he's renting an apartment and shit. So,
really?
You know, but it was cool to see the original and see how dramatically things change for you. You know, like as you grow up and change styles or, color palettes or whatever. It's like. It's like looking back in time and little bits of your life, you know.
Seeing how your style was at that, yeah.
Exactly.
That thing's amazing, bro.
Thank you. That was a lot of fun. I did the Frankenstein was the first one, or the Bride, I should say, and then I did a female because it was all plays on the traditional monsters, but with a woman in the role, minus the Bride, which is already the Bride, you know. But I did a female creature from the Black Lagoon. I did a female Nosferatu, not the classic Lugosi, which I should go back and revisit that stuff.
Should.
You know what I mean? And I did a couple of little things with like the werewolves and stuff like that, which was fun, but not as graphic as those were. Those were my favorites, with the big portrait of the creature behind the female figure, and then that was a lot of fun. I enjoyed doing those. So yeah, they're all gone now. I have no idea who bought them. They've all, with the exception of the Bride, that Jimmy owns. So So how did you? So you eventually, if it didn't work out with Mario, is that how you ended up with Eternal and
Yeah.
those guys?
You know, 'cause with Mario it was set in stone. He goes, I'll teach you everything I know and more for free if you just agree to stay in the shop for 2 or 3 years at least, you know, which of course, I'm sure I'd stay longer than that, you know. So he was going back to Austria the very next day, and he goes, I'll be back in 2 weeks and we'll get started. And I was like, left that day going, oh my God, I'm gonna apprentice with fucking Mario Bar.
It's like, this is gonna happen.
And it was set in stone. I'm like, fuck, I couldn't believe it, you know, I was tripping out. And so he ended up being gone for 2 months, and when he came back, he had changed his plans, and went and opened a shop in South Beach, Florida.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Doesn't he have family here in
Yeah, his
Michigan?
mom and dad, no, they were in Nebraska.
Okay, my bad, yeah.
And now they're in, does his dad live in Vegas now, mom and dad? Or do they live in California?
I don't know.
But they're always there when I go out to Vegas with band stuff and everything.
Yeah.
Like, they're always there. But yeah, he told me I could apprentice with him down there. But I had at that time I was married with 4 stepkids. And it just seemed too impossible.
Especially this is you're what? You're 29, 30 at this point.
I was 33, I think.
33.
By that point, that was 96.
And you have a full-time
33.
job. You have a fucking
Full-time job for 15 years
Yeah.
in the same place, and it just seemed that I could go down there and apprentice. I mean, do I got to get a job or something down there?
right.
So I talked with Mario about it, and we talked about going to Eternal because it was the best shop in Detroit. And so I went, talked to Tramp, and the exact same thing. He goes, I'll teach you. That day, he told me, brought in all my charcoal portraits and the stuff I was doing in art class and all that, all the charcoal drawing stuff. So he told me the same thing. He was, I'll apprentice you for free, but I got to he wanted to wait until there was definitely an opening in the shop.
That he can get you to work for, like work in, or like, so in other words, he's looking beyond just apprenticing somebody. He wants to make sure he's got a chair for you to sit in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so it took about 6 months, and he said, call me next week, or call me in a couple weeks or whatever. But I was calling him about once a week for 6 months,
Yeah.
And
it shows determination, man. I mean, because a lot of people may have just picked up and fucked off to a different shop. You know what I mean?
But yeah, I was, I knew it was going to happen. So 6 months later, the Detroit show happened again. This was the second one. And where Tramp became a partner, because Dave Simon, the guy who Mario was going to be a partner with,
right.
He did the very first convention.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Just him, yeah.
Because I didn't start doing the Detroit show until I think the second or third year. I can never remember. But it was second or third year. I can't remember.
Yeah,
but it was early on. It was when it was in a different location than it is now. It was like down by the airport or something like that.
Yeah, it was probably it was it turned into the Marriott, but it was.
I remember every
Royal
time.
Crown or something like that.
Yeah, every time I would come out, it was always the worst fucking weather because I would drive from fucking at the time I was living in New Hampshire. I think the first time I did it, I was living on Long Island still, like '99, and then the second time I did it, I was living in New Hampshire, so it was around 2000. And I remember every time I would make this fucking drive, it would go, as soon as you hit like Ohio, the fucking snow would start to come down. It was a shit show, man.
Dude, the Detroit show was like the first weekend of March every year.
Yeah, it still is for the most part, right?
Yeah, still is. They had a reputation for fucking ice storms.
Yeah. But in all honesty, I mean, back in the day, you did shows in the winter. Like the older I got as a tattooer, the summer months were always the slower months for custom appointment guys because our clients knew better than to ruin their summer by getting tattooed in the summer.
Yeah.
But for a street shops were busiest in the summer because it's like they're now wearing shorts, no shirts, short sleeves, whatever, and it's a lot of out of sight, out of mind kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So people decide, I'm going to get tattooed. I'll get tattooed in the summertime. So you never did conventions in the summer because you were too busy at home. You wanted to make your money at home. conventions in the winter made more sense because you're not as busy at home, and you can go out on the road and make all your money like at a convention, you know.
Totally.
And nobody wanted to shut down their shops in the summer,
Yeah,
you know.
that's true.
It was a completely different animal back then. Honestly, I liked it more back then because it gave you that little reprieve. Like from June to like the end of September, you really had no conventions. You know what I mean? There might be one or two started to slip in.
Yeah.
Probably early 2000s, you know, like 2005, I guess. I don't know. But it was a different vibe back then.
Yeah.
And again, also, we're going back to a day and age where shows were fewer and far between, and when you went to them, it was a really big experience. Now it's like dime a fucking dozen, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, man. Yeah, the good old days, man.
Yeah.
I miss those days, man.
Yeah.
So they were doing the second Detroit show, which Tramp became a partner with Dave and then the third one, Tramp kind of bought Dave out and it was all his after
Right.
that. But that second show was a Sunday night. I was hanging out. Cap Sumsky did this.
So, dude, Marshall, hey, look, point it at that one,
Yeah.
at that camera. This thing changed the way everything I thought of tattoos. Like everything about I thought of tattoos that changed for me.
It's it's fucking
That was 93, wasn't it?
No, it was 97. Because I got this a month before I started apprenticing.
Oh, okay.
So 97, so it's I guess it's 28 years old now. Dude, single needle outline. You could still see your eyes, bro.
Yeah, dude. This piece on my forearm here, this
Yeah.
one, I've talked about this a bunch of times. This was done in '97, and same thing. You could see her eyes, her lips have never really changed. There's a little spot that was a little bit of a bit of a hate. Like it didn't stick in that one spot, and it never changed. It's been like that for the fucking 27 years.
Wow.
It's incredible to me. That guy was a tremendous tattooer. It's a damn shame,
Yeah,
you know. It's a damn shame.
The best. I mean, that.
Yeah.
When he did that tattoo at that time, that's one of the best tattoos in the fucking world.
Yeah,
man.
when that hit the magazines, dude, like,
Yeah.
again, I think, you know, when it kills me because when we reminisce the old days, a lot of people, I think, roll their eyes now. You know, I shouldn't say a lot of people. I think half the people in the industry now roll their eyes because, you know, we're so used to being inundated with shit like every fucking moment you open your phone. Where back then, you know, you picked up a magazine and you had a window in which to see stuff and in which to enjoy it and really kind of absorb it and really just kind of study it, you know.
Yeah.
Now it's just like everything is just super fast.
Right.
So it's like, I do get where a lot of the younger generation, because that's the one thing I catch a lot of hell from people, is the fact that it's like, oh, dude, you're always talking about the old days and we don't know anything and blah, blah, blah. And you can't help but look back on it and just with fond admiration. It's just like, fuck, this was so great back then because there was nothing like it, you know?
Yeah.
Where now I think people just take shit like that for granted, you know?
Yeah.
So,
It was such a smaller world then, man.
Yeah.
And,
well, you can get to know all these people.
yeah.
You know, even with the advances in technology, I think that a lot of people never get to meet or know their heroes in this business. You know, not that you say you can't, but I think more people are just okay with keeping the distance of the phone. You know.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I miss those days, man. It was just, you know, it was a way smaller world than it is now. But so back to how I started. So that end of that convention, we were hanging out Sunday night at the bar and stuff, and Tramp was sitting there and stuff, and I became friends with a lot of tattooers and stuff, and
I was gonna say you've got a decent collection at this point,
yeah. And so Tramp comes over, he goes, "You're ready, aren't you?" I'm like, "Hell yeah, bro!" And so he goes, "Come into the shop on like 3 days or something, whatever." And so that's when I started my apprenticeship, and I was going in, because I had a day job, I was going in from 6 to 9 o'clock at night, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday.
Right.
And so 3 months later, I'm tattooing full time.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Within 3 months, that's fucking
3
killer.
months, yeah.
So
Real
6 to
quick.
9. Do you think that's the beginning of your night, your late night fucking tattoo?
Well, that's not late compared to what I do now.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. The beginning of that, because I mean, shit, the first time you did a guest spot with us, I mean, that day you tattooed Eric, you didn't get finished with him till like 4:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
You know, and you were leaving the next day to go back home to Michigan.
Oh, wow.
And I remember, like, we went back to the house, you crashed out for a few hours, I had to get to work. So we're trying to rush around to figure out how we're going to get you back to the shop. You got to get pictures of Eric's leg. So he came back to the house so he could take some photos before you could hit the road. And oh my God, dude, like hosting you, you were the first one that was kind of like, I'm going home for a few hours to get some sleep. I'll be back to pick you up when you're closer to done.
Yeah, you're not waiting until I finish the fucking tattoo. You know?
Exactly. So.
But I mean, for 15 years, my day job, I was working 6 to 4:30 or 7 to 3:30. So I was getting up at either 5 or 6 in the morning, like every day. So now I go to bed at 5 or 6 in the morning, like literally. I go to bed at 6 o'clock. You know, oh shit, it's getting light out. I should probably go to bed.
I don't know how you fucking do it, dude. That's crazy
but
to me.
I get my 6 hours sleep. You know,
That's
so
true. I guess if you're catching the sleep, it's all that matters. You know.
Yeah, I get up at noon. You know.
Yeah.
Fuck, today I forgot to set my alarm and got up at 1:30.
Yeah, I was supposed to do this with you on Friday, and then you moved stuff around for a show, and then you were just like, oh yeah, we'll hook up on Sunday. I'm like, all right, and then I'm like waiting for you to fucking text me. I'm like, I'm just gonna fucking call this guy.
But yeah.
So your apprenticeship was only 3 months. I mean, it was pretty traditional apprenticeship with the exception of the time in, or
it wasn't like. So Tramp is, Tramp is he's an old school dude, man. You know,
that's why I'm surprised you said 3 months.
Yeah, and from what I hear, people apprenticing, having to do stuff around the shop, having to scrub tubes back then when we used, make needles for the artists and stuff. I've heard so many people to kind of go through the ringer a little bit and washing your boss's car and fucking go out and run errands.
I was gonna say you're doing everything but learning how to tattoo.
Yeah.
You know.
But I went in there and Tramp's like, okay, just hang out, watch the guys work. You can ask questions if you want, but just hang out and observe and watch everybody. And dude, I didn't do a fucking thing except hang out and watch the guys work. And one night, like there was all the shops had a shop girl answering the phones and stuff, and she used to mop the floor at the end of the night every night and all that. But she wasn't there one night, and Tramp was mopping the floor. I'm like, bro, let me mop the floor for you. He's like, you don't want to mop a floor. You need to learn how to tattoo. And so all I did was hang out and watch the guys
and
work,
pick people's brains.
And Tom Renshaw's, worked there at the time, and Tom Renshaw was in 1997. He was the best black and gray portrait tattooer in the world, back then,
Yeah.
And you could ask anybody, any tattooer in the world. It was Philip Lou in Switzerland. There was Tintin in France. The guys, they did really with some of the best portrait artists back in 97, and you can name like maybe 10 or 12 artists around the entire world that were well known for black and gray portraits.
Yeah, when you looked at it from that perspective, the world was a lot smaller, and I think it was also because those were the ones getting a lot of the accolades on in the magazines and stuff.
Exactly.
But it was also at a point where I think that they were doing something that you saw occasionally, but they were the ones that really made a name for themselves doing it. You know what I mean? Like they could do it in a way that it was recognizable it wasn't just good, it was recognizable as being them.
Yeah.
And Tom was one of those. Tom was definitely like, he was a lot of the start of doing a lot of smaller stuff too. I don't want to say micro because they weren't really micro, but he was doing a lot of like these landscapes and animals and stuff like that.
Yeah, that came a little after I started. Like when I started, he was definitely a portrait guy, but doing any portraits, animals,
right?
Human portraits and stuff. But after I was tattooing for a few years or so, and then Tom kind of started gravitating towards wildlife stuff, animals, and then that's when he started doing all these backgrounds. But he would do work from a photo with the animal, and then he would freehand backgrounds like trees, and mountains or whatever. But he was really got into doing that, and that was his thing, freehand.
So how did you end up doing, going from like the horror stuff to, because your portraits are fucking beautiful as well. I mean, they're
Thanks,
spot
man.
fucking on. I mean, so how did that come about? Like,
Well,
I mean,
I was-
was it? So what I should be asking is, did you pick a direction that you definitely wanted to see yourself go? Like, I saw you do that later in life, but in the beginning, did you always have that direction, or was it the kind of thing it's like, you're good at doing portraits, do portraits? Or did it just kind of, everything just kind of happen naturally?
So when I started, even before I started my apprenticeship, and I made up my mind that I was going to learn how to tattoo somehow, in my head, I wanted to eventually specialize in doing black and gray portraits and Paul Booth style horror, custom horror stuff, you know. And that's exactly how it turned out after. It took about 2 to 3 years, you know. Because when I started, Tyrrell was a really busy street shop at that time.
Right.
And I started in late June, and the shops, they were slammed.
I was going to say, by the beginning of July, I would imagine they'd be packed.
Yeah, bro.
You know?
And it was a good thing because I was crazy busy right off the bat. And,
What would you say was the majority of the work that was being done, like street shop style, like back then?
Like everything. I don't know how many tribal armbands I did. They were big at that time. I just missed the era of the Tasmanian Devil.
That's a shame.
Yeah.
That's a damn shame. That was a good time. That was a good time to be a tattooer. You know
what? Yeah.
Yeah.
I never did one, except I redid one time, but just recolored it or whatever. But
Yeah.
I never actually did a Tasmanian Devil. I can't believe it.
That's a fucking. It truly is a shame. You've lived less of a life not having done one.
I missed out, man. I'm not bummed that I missed out on it, though. But
No, that was a special time back in the day. So it was definitely a special time. So I mean, so you were cutting your teeth on just about everything then. Do you
so I
remember
was doing tons of mostly color, you know, and everything. I did everything, yeah, and then kanjis and fucking everything.
Right.
Did a lot of little hearts with banners, and I ended up like doing my own little custom heart with my own little banner that I drew and stuff, and then so I had fun with all that stuff. I loved doing color at first.
Right.
I even enjoyed doing tribal armbands for a minute.
Well, I think as a tattooer, it doesn't matter what you're doing as long as you're doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Especially back then, because very few people were doing it. It was definitely it was like a niche job. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it was hard to get into, and you had to be a certain type of person to want to get into it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So anything you got to do was exciting. You know what I mean?
Dude, and especially after making kitchen countertops for 15 years in the
Yeah.
same dusty factory in the ghetto, you know.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
I'd get out on the road for the last few years, and I used to go install countertops in new homes when new homes were being built and stuff. So I kind of did everything, but it's not an enjoyable
It does
job.
not- it
It's not
does-
like, oh man, I love making countertops.
Yeah, exactly. This is amazing.
So when I started tattooing, and after 3 months, like I just quit my job cold turkey and started tattooing full time right away. And that first week, first of all, I made like twice as much money in that first week of tattooing than I made after 15 years working at the countertop place.
Shit, yeah.
So I was like, wow, this is fucking cool, you know?
It's like it's fun and you make money.
Yeah, and I was having a blast. Yeah, tattooing any little dumb thing, you
Yeah.
know? It's like, I'm fucking tattooing, man. I used to even enjoy making needles for the first 6 months. It's like, okay, cool. I got that one day a week I would sit and make needles. Like, oh, okay, I'm making my tools for the week, you know, and put on some music and get a little fan and blow the
I think
flux
that
away from-
was part of being a tattooer, where it's like you have routines that you look forward to sometimes. Like,
Yeah.
now with me, it's having coffee and drawing in the morning
Yeah.
and getting ready for my day to start. You know what I mean? I pretty much have done that most of my life, I think,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what was the first, do you remember what the first portrait you did was,
Yes.
and how good was it?
I was tattooing for maybe a month, and it was maybe like 2 months, and I wasn't ready to do a portrait. It turns out I was, but I didn't think I was.
Okay.
But I was doing black and gray, like right off the bat, I was doing a fair share of black and gray work and skulls and stuff like that. My
Yeah.
very first black and gray tattoo I did during my apprenticeship, it was the 4th tattoo I did. I did 6 tattoos and then started full time. But the first 3 were solid black. The 4th one was a black and gray skull. And so it was my very first time doing black and gray, and I picked it up instantly.
Did you?
I remember when I finished the tattoo, Tom Renshaw wasn't there that day. Jay Wheeler was there.
I remember Jay.
And I remember, yeah, man.
Yeah.
And his portraits were as good as Tom's.
He was another one that was coming up like that. I don't think he had there was something about him, like he was, I don't know, anything I say is going to sound weird and shitty, but it was like more small townish. Like it never seemed to get big. Like he didn't have the same international appeal that
he didn't
Tom seemed
pump
to.
himself. He didn't promote himself as much as Tom did, because Tom really
Pushed him.
got his stuff out in magazines big time, more
Yeah.
than anybody, you know. Jay was more laid back and didn't
Yeah.
really care much about that, but looking back in his portraits, him and Tom were like equally as good,
like a
man.
neck and neck.
Jay
Yeah.
was that good,
Yeah.
bro. So Jay was there that day, and I remember when I started shading the bottom, and it was like real red, like tomato red. And I asked Jay to check it out. He came down and looked at it. He goes, "Oh, you're not using enough black. You know, just use a little bit more black." You know, so at that time I set up the way Tom did, which used, you know, the smallest caps.
Right.
Number 9 or whatever they are, the smallest caps. Tom would set out 2 rows of 3 caps. So he would we were using Pelican ink back then, which was like that was kind of the ink of choice for portrait black and gray guys back then.
Yeah.
And I love Pelican. I used it for, you know.
I remember one year in Germany, you coming back with a big gallon of it. You picked it up somewhere. I don't remember what show it was, but I remember you going to the art supply store there and buying a big thing of Pelican.
Yeah, it's from Germany.
Yeah.
And man, I don't want to get off the subject, but there was this rumor going around that Tom called me and goes, "Hey, I heard Pelican's going out of business. They're going to stop making ink." Tom goes, "I just ordered fucking, you know, $500 worth of Pelican." He goes, "You should do the same thing, you know." And I'm like, "Okay." You know, I ordered like a fucking box. It was like 12 quarts or something. I don't know what I bought, you know. It lasted me a long time. So the rumor turned out to be untrue.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's funny. I think it needs to be said too that this is from a day and age where it's not like it is today. Like if you needed to get black, there was only a handful of suppliers.
Yeah.
And if one of them was out, then you were shit out of luck. You
Yeah.
couldn't just call the next one. Although I will admit that is later in the game, but still early then it's not like it is today where I can call up, you know, some supplier. If they're out, I can call another one and I'll get it in 2 days.
Yeah.
You know, back then it was a bit more of a chore, you know.
Yeah. I don't remember ever big short of ink, you know. I could always get it from National Tattoo Supply.
Yeah.
And then there was it Dermographics?
Demographics out of, I think they were Jersey or something like that.
I used to buy my loose needles from them.
Yeah.
And I started using the actual 00 gauge bug pins. That's what Tom Renshaw was using. And
I remember that might have been the first place I think I ever heard of that was through you guys. And I remember the first time using bug pins and being like, for black and gray, amazing. For color, dude, it slows you down something awful because you can't work fast at all, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I used to use regular 12 gauge magnums for color. Luckily, mags were around when I started. You know, they were like Tom Renshaw started doing portraits using round shaders.
That's got to be a bitch.
Because you know, I can't shade with the round shader.
Well, you know, it's often been said it's like you get to know and use what you have.
Yeah.
And you just get good at it.
Yeah, I'm sure I would have got used to using shiz. You know, I'm glad I didn't have to.
Right.
Magnums were like a revelation, a gift from the tattoo gods. You know. But so when I was doing that very first skull on my buddy, he was a red-haired dude, so it turned out he had that skin that got real red anyway when you tattoo it.
And then when it comes back, it's usually just super smooth, powdery gray.
Yeah. But I started and it was just like pure tomato red. I'm like, what the fuck's going on? So Jay came down, said, use a little more black, you know. And but what I was saying before, I was talking about Tom Renshaw's setup.
Yeah.
So it was a cup of Pelican ink. The first cup is solid black ink, and then water. So ink, you know, and so Tom would with those small caps, you know, he'd dip in the black and then dip into the water cup and kind of just mix in the cup, you know.
Right.
And then eventually that second cup sort of turns into like a medium gray. After dipping into it, it gets contaminated pretty quick.
Right.
And then you go to the third cup, it's just water, and then eventually that gets a little too contaminated. So he's got that second row, and that'll carry him through a portrait.
Right.
Know.
Eric still kind of works like that.
Really?
Very similar to that, but
Different
larger
cups.
caps, larger caps.
Yeah.
So.
I love doing that, man. The only reason I'm using premix grays now is because I got a signature set with Intens.
Oh, okay.
So I kind of had to use my own ink, you
Dude,
know.
do you remember Italy? I mean, excuse me, London a couple of years ago during the World Tattoo Conference, where I called you out on fucking stage?
No, I don't remember.
So we're in. I don't want to get you off track, but this is a funny story actually. So we're in London. We're doing the World Tattoo Conference. Alex DePasse and Tattoo Now and stuff, and we're all on stage. And you're one of the presenters, and he's presenting this his thing, and one of the people. Now there's a giant banner. I should set the stage. There's a giant banner above where Bob is talking, and it's Bob Tyrrell's intense black and gray set. And one of the people in the audience, you're going through your procedure, and one of the people in the audience goes, Bob, when you use your black and your gray, how many bits of water, blah blah blah, asks you a question, and you go, oh well, you know, like I really kind of mainly use Pelican, and I was just like, I was aghast. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? I was like, dude, are you really standing on stage right now and telling people how to do black and gray with a banner behind you, and you're using Pelican? And you were just like, oh well, you know what? All right, hold on. And then you went through you went through your phone, and you found pictures of tattoos that were done with the black and gray set, and you had to break down how you did those with the black and gray set, not the Pelican. That was like, it's a funny story, but it's just like, I can't help it. I had to tell it. I'm sorry.
Man, I don't remember that, bro. Fuck.
Yeah, that was a good event. That was fun.
Yeah.
That was fun.
So yeah, since we're talking about that, you know, so the first set we did, my signature set with Intens, I loved it from the get-go, but it was a little harder to work with. I was so used to Pelican, using that for 11 years or something. And I did a handful of tattoos with it, and they healed really nice, and Garrick was smooth, you know.
Right.
They were nice and dark and rich. I loved it, but it was doing portraits. It was wasn't as watery as Pelican, you know, and I found myself wiping more as I'm working, you know.
Right.
And with portraits, I was kind of wiping my stencils away a little too quick. And so I kind of gravitated back to using Pelican for portraits and using my ink for a freehand demon head or something where I draw it on with a ballpoint pen.
And you could be a little bit more freehand in the shading and stuff.
I never use Sharpies, man. I always freehand with a ballpoint pen because it wipes off quicker. Because I'm always drawn, I don't like that. And so I'm not like Paul Booth and Robert Hernandez, just okay, that's good. You know, because Sharpies stay a little longer.
Right.
But I would draw it on with a ballpoint pen, gray line everything I need to, which wasn't a whole lot. You know, the eyes, nose, maybe teeth, you know, and the outside and stuff, whatever. Just the bare minimum, I got to do that. And then I can just come in there and start working anywhere, which is cool. Because with portraits, you got to start from the bottom and work your way up.
Right.
Because I've done entire portraits with a 7 mag before.
Oh, I've seen it. I've seen it, yeah.
But usually I have a liner for white highlights at the end.
Right.
But there's been portraits where I didn't do white highlights, and the eyes were, you know, the big enough where I could get away with
just leaving it negative.
I can get away with using the corner of a mag to fill in pupils and eyes and stuff like that. And Tom Renshaw got me, like, he wanted to see me do everything with a 7 mag like he was doing. Right. And I remember him telling me he wanted me to take it further than what he did, you know, and I'm like, how can I do that? You're the best there is. There's no way I can do anything better than what you're doing, you know. But because he took me under his wing during that apprenticeship, because when I would go in there every night after my day job, and if Tom's in there doing a black and gray piece but it was usually a portrait at that time, and I would come there. So for the whole 3 hours, I would just sit and watch Tom.
Right.
And he had seen my charcoal portrait, so he knew I wanted to do what he was doing. So somewhere in those 3 months, he kind of took it upon himself. I never asked him, but he took me under his wing, you know, and had spent a lot of time with me. Ended up teaching me everything to do with tattooing,
Right.
besides technique, like eventually how you're gonna, you know, get your name out there and send stuff to magazines.
Which is just as it's just as important. I'd say now it's probably even more important to know how to market than talent is at this point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, man.
you know.
So back to my ink real quick, because I want people to know that I Mario Barth at one point kind of caught wind of his hearing from, because at seminars and stuff I was telling people, well, I'm using Pelican for portraits, and then I use, you know, my signature set for you know, freehand stuff. And so Mario's like, man, I heard you're not using your ink all the time. It's like, we got to fix this, you know. And I'm like, man, I should have just came to you right away.
Yeah, I was gonna say this should have been done day one.
Should have been, yeah, exactly. So we ended up doing a whole new formula. And
Now, how long ago was this?
so this was 12, 13, 14 years ago,
Okay, yeah.
maybe. And so when we did the new set, like I've been using that set every single tattoo I do for the last 13 years,
Right.
or however long we've had that second set.
Right.
And and I love it, man. Like I'm, you know, pre-mixed grays and stuff. I never would have thought to use.
How much? How many? What's the breakdown? Is it 4 pigments or is, I mean?
So
is it 4?
there's it comes with 6 bottles. So there's the darkest black is called Dimension Black, and that's for, like, you know, it's a black. It's, you know, and then there's one called Sculpting Black, which is just about as dark, but it's kind of made to be. It's more like a lining black, I guess. And what I didn't realize right off the bat he was sending me samples, and we got to this. I wanted to make it a little bit lighter, so it's got to be a little lighter, the grays. And by the 4th test sample, it's like, okay, that's perfect. We can leave it there. Cool.
Right.
You know, but I didn't even realize that. All I asked is if we can get it as close to Pelican.
That's all you were. That
smooth
was, yeah.
black and gray, and but Mario, they ended up putting a little bit of white in all the washes,
Oh, so
and the sculpting black.
Okay.
You know.
So your stuff has a bit of opacity to it, or is it opacity, or is it just a little bit of a kind of a silver tint to it?
Maybe kind of because it's not opaque, you know. To me, it still looks like black and water.
Right.
But sometimes you can notice that opacity just
Right.
a little bit. And I've had a couple of people ask me if
If you're cutting
put white
with
in
white.
there or something. But normally it looks, it's just a tinge of opacity.
Right.
You know, because if it was too much, I wouldn't want that. You
Yeah,
know?
exactly.
So, but it's like, oh shit! I noticed the bottom of the bottle. So there's a little white ring at the bottom from the white settling. It's like, wow, okay, well, cool. I
tried using because I've switched to because I used to just dip into a cup to cut my black and gray. I did that for most of my career, and then the more and more black and gray I was doing, I was like, you know what? Maybe I should try to start fucking around with, you know, premixes. So I would premix in the cap, and I would do, you know, like break down my caps, you know, with a little bit of witch hazel. And then it got to a point where I was doing so much black and gray, I'm like, well, fuck, I'm just going to buy some premix. And I did try some of the. They're not, like I said, they're not mad opaque, but they are. They definitely have white, and you could see it. And I noticed on certain skin tones, mainly Hispanic skin tones, I always had a harder time with that healing smooth for me, like the ones with the bit of opacity to it. Always had a harder time healing smoother for me personally.
Yeah.
And then so now I just use I'm trying to think. I think I use Solid. I think I use Solid's black and gray. So.
What is it?
Solid, the company.
That's
Solid.
the name of it?
Yeah,
I never heard of it.
it's a whole. That's what they do. They just do pigments. They have a full line of color. They have a full line of black and gray, blacks. Everybody, yeah, that's what everybody's doing. All the other colors I use are Easy Glow from Brazil. I use their black
What's it
still.
called?
Easy Glow from Brazil.
Never heard of
Electric
that
Ink. Electric Ink's colors. I've been using their colors since 2009, I think, 2010.
Wow.
And then and they're black and they're white. They do a black and gray set. I just never, because I started using solid and I was like, well, I really like this. It looks good. I'm just going to continue with this.
Yeah, if you like something,
Yeah.
no reason to
I just
change.
recently tried Allegory. That guy John from Florida, he gave me a set of their stuff, and it's good. But I haven't noticed a difference. I haven't seen enough stuff come back where I can make the comparison, like a side by side comparison between the solid and the Allegory. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and that's kind of where it matters to me. It's like I want to see what it looks like healed up. You know?
Yeah.
So.
I'm out of the loop when it comes to color and color pigments and stuff.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too is when you get set on a particular company, why would you why would you switch?
Yeah.
You know.
If it's working and it's working good,
Exactly.
then no.
Exactly. So to just a quick thing, like, so your first portrait, did it turn? As you said, it turned out as good as you thought it was going to.
Yeah, we were talking about that.
Yeah, that's where we said. I apologize for the jumping around, because I think both of us are a bit like.
Dude, yeah. Once you start talking about something, there's a story there.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
But so yeah, my very first portrait. So I was working in one of the Eternal shops. I apprenticed in the main shop on the west side of Detroit, Livonia. And but when I started, he put me in another shop where he had a spot for me.
Right.
That was out in Waterford, Michigan. It's like the north shop of, because Tramp had 5 shops kind of surrounding the city of Detroit.
Yeah.
You know. So I was working out there. It was summertime. You know, the shop was pretty crowded in the summer. But this guy came in and he wanted a portrait of, you know, the Night of the Living Dead DVD cover, where it's like a young girl, like a young blonde-haired girl, and she's a zombie. It's a real graphic. It's not like a full-on just.
It almost has like a graininess to it.
Yeah, yeah. So this guy wanted that, you know, and I'm like, I go, bro, the best portrait tattooer in the fucking world works in the Livonia shop, which is about 30 minutes away from this shop, and this guy didn't want to go 30 minutes to get a tattoo from the best guy in the fucking world.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, oh, dude, and he's like, no, I just want to get it done here, you know. And I explained to him, I said, I've been tattooing for 2 months, and I showed him some of my black and gray work and stuff, because when I was talking about doing that skull for the first time,
Right.
black and gray is the one thing I picked up right off the bat. When I finished that skull, I had black and gray down to a T, and you know, I totally. I don't know if it's because you
just felt comfortable doing what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I've done just doing charcoal portraits and stuff. I had a grasp of how values work and stuff like that, you know. So it translated real easy to skin for me.
Right.
Even with my buddies fucked up getting dark red skin, you know. Tramp came in when I finished. He looks at it. He didn't say anything. He fucking pats me on the back like, bam, 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 like, fucking good job, bro, you know.
Nice.
And everything else took a little more time, you know, outlining really good, and you know, just packing color, packing black and smooth, consistent. But black and gray, boom, man.
Nice.
Right off the bat. So in those 2 months, I did a good share of black and gray stuff. And so I showed the guy. I said, well, this is my black and gray work and stuff. I had never done a portrait yet. And I said, I'll try it for you, you know, if you want. I remember charging him $100, and it took like 8 hours, you know.
Oh, shit.
And it's like, I'll just do it. And I was happy with the way it came out, you know. And I showed Tramp and Tom Renshaw and stuff, and they thought that they go, okay, it's like, it's yeah, you're ready, you know. You're ready to do portraits, you know. It's not like, well, you know, it's pretty good, but I would hold off a little bit or something. And they were like, okay, cool. And they were both happy, and I was happy with it at the time. I was excited about it, you know? And so that was my first portrait and stuff. But I remember, you know, and I kept doing more after that. And I remember around the 2-year mark is when I was, okay, I'm comfortable doing portraits enough to send them to magazines and stuff.
Oh, really? Okay.
You know?
Okay.
And I remember doing a pinhead from Hellraiser, and that was the best one I had done so far. It's like, man, okay.
And that's a hell of a one to do, because it's very like super technical
all those
kind of
fucking
stuff.
pins in his head, man.
Yeah.
Pain in the ass, you know.
But again, right up your alley,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So,
So
So you were taught traditionally with, coils and needles on the bar and everything else, When did you make the switch over to, okay, well, I'm trying to think if I want to go there first or if we just, because you like Paul, you're big into the music, you're a musician yourself. How many musicians have you tattooed over the years? Like, do you have like the same thing that, like, say Paul has, where he's tattooed a bunch of guys, like, from different bands and stuff like that, like, these metal bands, these dark metal bands, whatever. Do you have a similar, like, story with that?
yeah, I do, man. There was, I was tattooing for years before I tattooed my first. Well, actually, no, I take that back. I started in '97. In 2001, I tattooed Kid Rock. Did the eagle on his back?
Right. Yeah.
So the way that came about, I was working at Eternal here, and it used to be what Shop Marshall has now. It used to be a half mile up the road.
Okay.
Tramp was renting that place.
That's right. I remember him saying that they had moved to this location.
Yeah, Tramp had bought the other shop and moved a half mile down, and then Marshall ended up buying that shop
Right.
years later and stuff. But it was 2001. I was tattooing. At this point, I had moved into. I wanted to work at that shop when I started, but there wasn't room for me. So Tramp ended up firing a guy at one point, and it opened up a spot. So because it's 5 minutes
From here.
So anyway, I was sitting there one day, and I wasn't working. I didn't have an appointment that day, but I was in the shop, and back then and that's the only shop of Tramp's 5 shops where they didn't have a receptionist answering the phone and stuff. And I always wanted one, and Kenny, our manager at the time, didn't want someone else in there, answering the phone. He wanted us to handle it ourselves.
Right. That's pretty old school. I mean, that's how I came up. So.
Dude. And not to get off the subject, but so Kenny was the manager. Another guy named John worked there, and those guys would leave. The shop's open 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Me and Marshall would work till 3 in the morning.
Till whenever. Go figure.
15 hours a day.
Go figure. You haven't changed much.
I know. So, but Kenny and John would, and in the summertime, when I'm talking, the shop's fucking packed with people, and the phone's ringing off the hook. And Kenny and John would leave at 7 o'clock. So for those last 3 hours, me and Marshall had to answer the phones, and take care of the fucking, 20 people in the lobby. And dude, I stressed out so fucking, I couldn't handle it. And I did, but.
Well, you kind of have no choice at that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, I get where you're coming from with that.
Phone rings, I answer it. The phone rings 5 minutes later, Marshall answers, and then I answer. And then, a fucking bunch of people in the lobby, and I'm trying to do a tattoo, and I'm sitting there, and I look up, and someone's staring at me. Look up, and they're like, it's like, okay, go out. Okay, hey, how much is this? $60. How much is that? And it's about the same size, $60, and just wasting your time. And then go back, and then I'm answering the phone, and fucking 2 times I fucking ripped the phone off the wall, bro, and smashed it. I literally ripped it off the wall. Bam! Right in front of my client. And they're freaking out. Oh my God.
Yeah, it doesn't set a good precedent.
That's how stressed out I would get, bro. But so anyway, getting back to the Kid Rock story. So I'm sitting there, and the phone rang, and I happened to be the one who answered it. And it was Jason Krause, the rhythm guitarist for Kid Rock's band. Okay. And they were recording, do you remember the song American Badass when it came out? So this is after Kid Rock's first album. It was actually like his 3rd album, I think. Maybe even he had 2 or 3 albums that were independent labels and like total rap stuff. So he released the album that got
kind of put him on the map.
Yeah. Put him on the map, yeah. The Devil Without a Cause. And he got big right away from that album. So that album was out, and they were working on stuff for the next studio record, but the record company they wanted something out right away. And they released an album called The History of Rock. And it was stuff from the first 2 or 3 albums.
Right.
And they wanted one new song, so they recorded the song American Badass. So they were in the studio in Royal Oak, Michigan. 15 minutes from the shop here.
Right.
And they were in the studio recording that song. So then they said they all want to get tattooed, you know. And so I wasn't working, so I took my portfolio right then and there. That afternoon, I went up and met them all, showed them my work and stuff. And they
so they didn't come into the shop, that you had to go to them.
I went to them really just to meet them and stuff.
Okay,
you know
okay.
So Kraus ended up coming back to the shop that night. Jason and I he had an old color heart tattoo. I added a new heart. It was a mom heart. I added a dad heart, redid the old one, and did a new color. It was color, you know.
Right.
So I did that, and then like a few days after that, Uncle Cracker, he was in Kid Rock's band at the time. Yeah. And I did this old English letters, but negative space. His whole forearm, so when he holds his arm up like that, so it's Cracker.
Say Cracker, yeah.
And so I did this negative space, and I shaded around it with all these little smoke skulls and stuff, you know. So I did that, and then when they made the video for that song, American Badass, it was right after that, you know. So this is all like a week later after I met them all, and maybe I did the Cracker a little later, maybe a month later after I met them all, because like 2 or 3 days after I did the tattoo, they shot the video, and it's in the video.
Right.
And they show him like his arm goes up like this, and then they zoom in on the tattoo, and it still has that fresh tattoo.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
It's not. It's definitely brand new. Yeah.
Yeah. So I did that, and when I met Kid Rock that very first day, he goes, hey, I want to get this eagle on my back. You know, he was talking about it, and then he never did. You know, and then about a year after all that. Joe C. Do you remember the Joe C? Was the little? He looked like a kid.
Oh like, yeah. He was in all the videos.
He was an adult. Yeah. He had, I think it was called celiac disease or something that he had. But so he had passed away, and so the guys wanted to get some kind of tribute tattoo for him. So I drew up this old English C, outlined in black and shaded in, and with a little banner going through it that said Joe. So Joe, and then this old English C.
Right.
You know? And so they all came in, and I spent like 14 hours or something like that. And
tattooing, how many of them all together?
The whole band except for the drummer, and I did her a few days later, she came in. But it was the whole band and like 2 of Joe C's friends came
Jesus,
up too,
a full fucking day.
Yeah, dudes, I'm just it was great though, man. Like everybody I'm tattooing, everyone's telling stories, you know, about band stories and shit. So it was cool, man.
You know, you do realize this came about because you answered a fucking phone.
Dude, like if someone else answered the phone, who knows what would happen.
So there's something to be said for the nuances of annoyance of the old school tattoo shops. Like, because like you said, let's imagine if you had torn the phone off the wall, smashed it, and you couldn't answer the phone when that phone call happened, right. And somebody else got it only because the phone was in their room.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So when you look at stuff like that, you know, sometimes things just happen because it's supposed to happen, you know?
It almost feels like it was meant to be, you
yeah.
know, but it was just a random fucking thing. And what was I gonna say? Oh, like when they did call the shop, they heard of the shop. I didn't have anything in magazines yet, or no articles yet in magazines, and they didn't know who I was. I just happened to be the guy to answer the phone, so it worked out really cool.
I was gonna say, in all honesty, considering most musicians, excuse me, it was a big giant bumblebee, I think.
Bumblebee.
Most musicians don't have the best of taste, or for that matter, the patience.
Yeah.
To get good tattoos. Like people always ask, like I joke. A lot of people joke about like, oh, such and such tattoos. This person, this person, this person, and you're like, who fucking cares? Have you ever seen those tattoos? They're trash.
Yeah.
Like how these people don't have someone in their inner circle to be like, dude, don't go. Please, just come with me. I'll take you to a good place. You know, my guy's good. You're like, this person's no good. Just come with me. You know what I mean? So, I mean, they got lucky considering the fact, like, they could have ended up anywhere, you know what I mean? So,
yeah, man.
But again, the fact that they heard of Eternal and that Eternal had a reputation, and not for nothing, I don't remember anybody bad ever working at Eternal. So,
Right.
you know, so chances are they would have ended up with somebody good regardless. You know?
They would have got a good tattoo.
Exactly.
But, you know.
But to look back for them, I would imagine, and again, they probably don't look at it from the same perspective that I'm about to put on it, but to say, yeah, I got one of Bob Tyrrell's first fucking, before he was famous and in the magazines and stuff like that. Because the work was amazing back then too. It wasn't like you became good after you did all these tattoos. You were doing great work back then. So,
I mean,
you know.
yeah, I did pick it up pretty quick.
Yeah.
You know, that's...
Oh yeah, I mean that's what I'm saying. You kind of came on the scene like a fucking firecracker, man. Like, and we're getting off subject in a sense, but guys like Andy Engelhardt out of Germany.
Randy
Engelhardt?
Andy Engel?
Andy Engel.
Yeah.
Engel. Yeah, I just totally fucked up both their names. Yeah, but Andy Engel, another tremendous tattooer in general, just color, black and gray, everything. Very low key, very very quiet, very humble. Ralph is another tremendous tattooer. And I remember you telling me, I don't remember if it was Ralph or if it was Andy, him wanting to show you his portfolio.
That was Andy.
It was Andy. It was Austria or something like that. I can't remember
London,
where it was.
England.
It was London?
Yeah, it was a London show at Traveling Mick.
Yes.
You know Traveling Mick.
Yep.
So Mick came on, he goes, hey, I think he had hit me up before that convention, and he was telling me about this guy from Germany, and he loves your work, and and I think we were talking about we were both going to be at London, and he asked if this guy Andy could come over and watch me work, you know, and so that's what he did. He came over and he ended up hanging out all day while I did a portrait. And
right.
He was the absolute nicest guy ever.
He was, yeah,
met,
super
almost,
nice guy.
You know, yeah. And I saw his work. I'm like, oh my God, this guy's amazing.
Yeah.
You know, but he so that's when we became friends. And
Yeah.
he became like he's one of my best friends.
Yeah.
I hardly ever see him, but
I was gonna say, unfortunately, with everything that's happened over the last few years, it's like it's harder to get over there and stuff. And I think the biggest issue with our generation now, it's like when we do hook up, because very few of us are doing shows, you know, we're not traveling as much as we used to.
right.
It is harder to make those connections again, you know.
Yeah.
You know.
I miss all my friends. Yeah, we especially we used to go to Europe a lot more. And stuff,
Yeah,
and
I mean,
make
shit, I
some-
would go to Europe 4, 5, 6 times a year. Now, if it's once a year, it's a lot.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
You know. But again, I think it's a combination of getting older, not being as busy when you go, money's not the same. You know. Now it's more. If anything, I think now it's more about the money. It's just expensive to travel and it's a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
So as far as like, let's say like equipment and stuff like that, like you made the switch over from coils to rotaries. Kind of, you didn't jump into it as quickly as a lot of other people did.
No, I held out for a while, and I wasn't gonna switch over, you know, and I was like loyal to the coil, as they
Right.
say, you know, and I loved coil machines, you know, I love the way they sound, and you know, that's the one thing I know you've missed as well, is the sound of a fucking
Oh,
coil
dude,
machine.
and that's half. I will admit, it's for no other reason than nostalgia. Nostalgia, and there is a technical aspect of it that I miss, that I feel is lacking with like rotary, especially pen rotaries. You know what I mean? That has made it easier for me to be like, yeah, I'm going back to coils in certain instances.
Really?
Yeah,
Have
I
you?
mean, not 100%. I'd say for lining, it's probably about, I line with coils probably about 30-40% of the time. Shading, 20-30% of the time, depending on what the tattoo is. And then otherwise, it's hard to get away from cartridges. But for lining, for me personally, I do not like lining with cartridges.
Yeah.
So no matter what, if it's a rotary machine, it's going to be my transverse machines, which have an armature bar. You use needles on the bar, or I'm going to use coils. You know what I mean? And again, it's going to depend on what the tattoo is to decide which of those machines I'll use.
Yeah.
You know?
Do you just use coils at home, or you bring them with you?
No, it's mainly been at home because, again, it's a lot to carry around. I was
Yeah.
going to bring coils here, As it turns out, I'm glad I didn't because I didn't tattoo while I was here. But when I go to Chris's show in Lenore, I might bring my coils because I do miss them. They're really. I've got some really nice fucking coil machines, and pulling them out, it's like stepping back in time. I think it's a lot of fun to be able to grab that and remember the first time you used it and where you got it and how many fucking countries it's been to. Dude, you know what I mean?
I know.
Like, it's to me, coils have a soul. Rotaries do not. Rotaries are soulless whatever. You know what I mean? They're tools. Where coils are machines built by men, you know, they're made for, you know, with a specific purpose in mind a lot of times.
All different, you know. Yeah. It's like rotaries are all exactly the same.
Exactly.
Know? They're just so convenient, you know, and that's the only reason we use them.
Most certainly, yeah.
You know, it's like you don't need an autoclave anymore, you know.
Well, again, that's the big thing. Like, and disposables have made it, you know, so easy to just go, yeah, I'm just going to do this. You know what I mean? And now with the pen machines, you cut out most of your disposables. You know, so it is hard. How easy was it for you to make that transition? Because not for nothing, you started using, it was the Cheyennes, right?
Cheyenne pen.
And those things are like fucking hammers in comparison to most rotaries.
Yeah, it's that direct hit, you know, like that's besides the sound of them, that magical sound of tattooing, you know, a coil machine. I miss the give that coil machines have, especially with me doing black and gray. And I've had some machines built and set up specifically for soft black and gray and the way I work, you know. And I have some beautiful machines, man. Kevin Riley, maybe a few, and Keith B.
Nice.
Some really nice machines. Those were the two I were using before
you made the move over.
Yeah. So I missed that, but yeah, I started with the Cheyenne. I'm Tommy Lee Wentner.
Oh yeah, Tommy, yeah.
So he was trying to talk me into. He's like, you gotta try this. The pen had just come out, you know.
It's funny, like rotary guys back in the day, they were like crackheads trying to get their best friends on crack. It was just like, dude, you got to try this machine. I know you got to give this machine a shot. Like, this is the best machine you're ever going to use. It's like they're trying to. They're whatever crack dealer every coke dealer wants. It's like it's the loudmouth friend that's going to sell for him. You know what I mean? So
totally, bro. Totally, man. So I was at the Copenhagen convention one year, and my buddy Derek Baker from Cape Town, South Africa, he was there and he was using them. So him and Tommy Lee were both telling me, man, you should try this thing, you know. And so a friend of mine, Rosanna, who works in Amsterdam.
Right.
She's amazing tattooer, man. And I'd done a portrait of, I think it was Betty Davis on her, and it was she was there working and stuff, and I wanted to try it there, so I grabbed her, and the tattoo was fine. It was healed and fine. So I'm like, hey, can I just fuck around with a little background on this, you know, just to try with this machine? So I did that.
Oh, that was clever.
Yeah,
that was clever.
Just to get a feel of, and it's like, wow, this thing's actually pretty cool, you know. But it's definitely felt hard hitting, you know, but it still went in nice and smooth and soft. You know, and I'm like, okay, this is kind of cool. So a month later, I did a Toronto show, and remember Conrad?
Yes.
Cheyenne guy.
Yeah.
He's a great, amazing dude, man. Yeah. You know, I've known him 2, 3, 4 years before this, and he did every fucking convention.
Yeah, he was everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah, and he was like, we were my drinking buddy. We'd go to, you know, after the show, go out and have a few drinks.
He definitely liked to hang. I mean, he was, you know, it could easily be said he helped put that brand on the fucking map, because he was a likable person that, and not for nothing, that's kind of what you needed, especially with a company like Cheyenne.
Yeah.
Because they're business people. They're like, they're corporate. You know what I mean? So you need like a human face.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think today it would be an easier pill to swallow, a corporation selling you everything, because that's pretty much what's happening now. But I think back then it was a bit of a bitter pill to swallow, knowing that you're just dealing with this faceless company. Yeah. So they needed that face to be out there to help humanize what they were selling.
Totally, man.
You know?
And you know, the whole time I knew him before, he never tried to push the machine on me. You know, we were just friends.
Exactly, yeah.
You know, but in Copenhagen, he had caught wind that I tried out his machine and liked it. You know, and so a month later, when we were in Toronto, he goes, "Hey, you know, I heard you like the machine." He goes, "Do you want to try it out here again?" You know, so. And he said, if you like it, you can keep it, you know. So I used it. And I was splitting a booth with Paul Booth that weekend. And I told Paul,
did he give you
I'm
shit?
gonna try this machine. No, not at all. He was, I think he was he using rotaries?
I don't remember how it took. I thought it took him longer to make the switch, but I could be completely wrong.
He could have been using like Inkjecta or something.
Yeah.
But I forget. But I remember telling him, hey, Paul, I'm going to try out this rotary. He's like, you're going to try out a rotary for the first time at a tattoo convention?
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, maybe it's not a good idea, huh? He goes, nah, you'll be okay. He goes, it's a little bit of a learning curve, but you'll be all right.
Yeah.
And so I did this cool, it was a skull with, well, I say it was a cool piece. I hate fucking doing clocks, bro. I think I've done like 3 clocks, and I don't do clocks anymore. I'm like, no clocks.
It's just straight lines and circles.
Yeah, the 2 hardest things to fucking
Yeah, exactly.
do.
Scott Harrison used to have a sign in his station in New York when I first met him. His big sign said, it said straight lines and circles at your own risk.
Yeah.
And to this day, like whenever I get something like that, that pops into the back. I have to have a sign made. Because I fucking hate it's, especially the older we get, man.
It's so
like
it's anything trendy.
Yeah, it's all a chore at that point.
Yeah.
It's not even fun.
Right. Totally, man. But doing this tattoo, yeah, it was a skull with a clock in the forehead of the skull, and it was a cool, fun piece. Still, you know, even with the clock, it was still
right.
fun. And but I used the machine. About halfway through that tattoo, I had it down, completely comfortable with it. And so I worked all 3 days, all weekend with that machine, and I never looked back after that, you know.
Nice.
It was, I did a guest spot at my buddy Psycho Dave's shop. You know Psycho Dave?
Yeah, I know who he is.
Fucking great guy,
Yeah.
man. I miss that guy, bro. So, and I used it there, and it was just great. So, and then about 2 years after using it, I hadn't touched a coil, and I was, that's when I was working it out in West Hollywood. I got an apartment, I think, by that point. I was going there back and forth.
Yeah.
I had an apartment out there for about 5 years.
Yeah.
This was always home base here.
Yeah.
But I was working at Shamrock one day a week, and I tattooed my buddy Jake, he was like the shop guy, and then apprenticed, and now he's fucking tattooing and kicking ass, bro.
Oh, for real? Is he still with?
He had moved to Vegas.
Oh, okay.
So he's working in Vegas now. But he wanted me to tattoo his hand, a skull on his hand, but he wanted me to use coils, because like that shop was
Pretty old school.
like nobody used rotaries. Everybody was using coil machines.
I was gonna say you roll in there, you're gonna look like a pansy.
I was the first guy using a rotary. You know, it didn't feel right. You know, I felt like a pussy. You know, and someone probably joked about, why are you using that vibrator?
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever for a machine.
So did you actually tattoo him with the coils after?
So he asked me to, and I said, sure, man. And I actually had my 2 favorite coil machines in my apartment, just in case I thought I might use them or something. I had everything. I had, needles, needle bars and everything. Yeah. The needles I liked, they were like 10 gauge, 10-07, like a 10 gauge 7 mags.
Right.
And liners were just a regular 12 gauge 3-liner.
Right.
When I used coils, I did every single tattoo with a 3-liner and that 7 mag, which would fit in a 5 mag tube.
Oh, that's right, because they were one liner down.
Yep.
Like a 9 sat in a 7, an 11 sat in a 9.
Yep.
Yeah. So one of the things I want to ask, when you made the switch from coils to rotaries, I would have imagined you would have gotten faster. You have not gotten faster.
No.
Not even a little bit.
No, I've gotten
thing,
slower.
it blows my fucking mind, dude. Like I said, when I went to Marshall's and I'm watching people tattoo, And the fact that it's a rotary and you already can't hear it, and then watching people move like insanely fucking slow, and I'm just like, oh my God, what are you doing? Like, but again, it's so, not having been on the road for a long period of time and now seeing people working and just seeing the weird little idiosyncrasies that people have, and moving so fucking slow. And like I said, I used to watch you work and just be like, just brushing shit in. And you're just like, and again, I do get it. I do understand that there is something to be said for working slow. But then I look at other guys that are just doing crushing work, like, you know, James Tex and whatever, and they're fucking blasting through shit. You know?
I mean, watching Paul Booth work.
And that's a good point. Like, you know, Paul's using the exact same tools you're using. Granted, your tattooing is completely different. You know what I mean? Where you're more about, I think, the subtleties. Paul's a lot more about the textures. You know what I mean? You two totally different styles of tattooing.
Yeah.
But it is amazing to me to see the differences in the way in which people work.
Yeah.
You know, and how different their stuff can be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it always amazes me watching people do a portrait in an hour and a half or something.
Yeah.
It takes me 6 hours, you know.
Yeah. Like
Tommy Montoya is one guy. I remember beautiful portraits, and he was fucking fast. Kat Von D, bro, she did great portraits, amazing portraits, in like an hour and a half, bro. And it's like, God damn it, I don't know. And they're, you know, it's just as good as anything else.
As anything, yeah.
But they're just, you know, and I always say, like, you know, with Paul and, you know, people that work really fast like that, it's like you're kind of working to the speed of your brain. I know Paul is, you know, his brain is, you know, his hand's keeping up with his brain.
Right.
You know, with me, it's the same thing, but my brain thinks a lot. And I sit there and I'm like, even when I'm doing a freehand demon head, you know, I just all my own texture and everything, I'm sitting there going, okay, what am I going to do here? You know, what kind of texture do I want to do? Okay. And then I still tattoo and brush it in the way I do portraits.
Right.
Even if it's a demon head, you know.
And something
whatever.
You could conceivably move a little bit with broader strokes. You're still just fucking, for lack of a better word, noodling.
Right. You know, like I don't have to think as much as when I'm doing a portrait.
Right.
Because you got photo reference, so you're looking at it and you're thinking, okay, and then you're, you know, back and forth all the time. But with a demon head, I can just do whatever the fuck I want.
Right.
But I'm still, you know,
you're still caught in your own head.
Yeah. You know, I mean, pick a light source wherever it's going to be, and then work that way. But I'm always unsure what I'm doing. I'm just kind of, you know, figure out as I go, and then it always ends up being the same old texture I do all the time, with little lumps and bumps and little, you know. And then I fucking study Robert Hernandez's work.
Dude, he's another one. It's a combination of texture and just straight up smooth gradients, and it's just gorgeous.
Yeah,
his work is fucking gorgeous.
Yeah,
you know,
he's just to me the best guy. And if I had to name one tattooer in the world, even because, you know, there's no best of
right
anything,
exactly, yeah,
if I can only name one artist, it's Robert Hernandez for me.
Really?
You know, yeah.
That's a bold. That's
you know, it's hard
that's
to
saying
say.
something.
It's because you got Shige and you got Jeff Gogwe.
Yeah.
And you got Philip Liu and Guy Aitchison.
I think it's. Oh, thank you. I think it's the chord that these artists strike for the individuals. You know what I mean? Like if you had to tell them, if you asked me, I couldn't give you a top one. You know what I mean? I can give you a top half dozen.
Yeah.
You know, that I truly admire.
Yeah.
You know, and 9 times out of 10 it's because it's stuff that I think is just outrageous, and it's also unique. Like black and gray, and again, I'm not. This isn't an attack, but a lot of these black and gray artists, whether they be dark artists or color or black and gray realisms or whatever, they're all incredibly impressive and technical as fuck, like yourself. You know what I mean? But I'm always drawn to the ones that have a bit of their own voice, which is why I think Robert stands out amongst most. Because even if he does a portrait, you're gonna know Robert did that portrait. And I think even with the way you tattoo, you know, you have a particular way in which you work, that your work has a feel that is definitely you. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I don't want to say, I'd go as far as say 8 times out of 10, you could probably pick one of your portraits versus somebody else's. And while those other portraits are probably immaculate and perfect, there's still something about them that kind of puts them in the same boat as all those other guys. You know, like Robert Foe is a good one, a good example. Robert Foe's fucking, black and gray is tremendous.
Yeah.
You know, I think he stands out a little bit different, stands out amongst the others.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And again, it's not putting anybody down because so many people are doing that, but there are so many people doing it so well that you're kind of like, yeah, okay, cool, that's another one. Good for you, you know.
Right.
So, and that didn't sound good. That's not going to go over well.
There's so many amazing portrait artists out there now.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So you basically are now, you're back in Detroit full time. You, like you said, you were in LA for a bit. You were bouncing around. You've traveled the fucking globe over and over and over again. And you said you're kind of over it now, right? You're just more into just being home and going away occasionally.
Yeah, bro. I mean, I did conventions for 20 years, like doing a shit ton of shows, like you did too, man, for a long time. And for about the last 10 years of those 20 years, I was always tell people, man, I'm kind of burned out, man. I want to slow it down a little bit. And every time I say that over every year or something, my friends go, you say that every year, man, you'll never slow down. And they were right, I never did.
Right.
And so 20 years, it took the pandemic to slow me down, because when the pandemic hit, man, honestly, that was like the best thing that could have happened to me, because I was home for a year. And because I always wanted to, I'm like, man, I love being home, but I was so programmed to do conventions.
Right.
And every time a friend would ask, hey man, you want to do my show? And I'm thinking, yeah, I can do that. I got nothing going on. Why not? Especially if they're, giving you a hotel and a booth and stuff.
I think our generation was brought up on that. I think our generation was just like, oh yeah, I want to go there. Oh yeah, I'll go there. Oh, let's do this.
Yeah.
Oh, we're going to do Richmond again? Yeah, let's go to Richmond again. And before you know it, everything becomes a routine.
Yeah.
Yeah. You continuously do these shows over and over and over again.
Yeah. And I'm just over that way. And dude, and then, I was single for, there was like an 11-year stretch where I purposely stayed single, and that's when I was traveling the most, I think. But I always was doing too many conventions. That's kind of one of the reasons our marriage kind of fizzled out, because I was gone all the time, and I don't blame her. All she wanted was
a home, like someone to be with home.
Spend time together, yeah. So, so when the pandemic hit, I'm like, okay, the year at home was fucking amazing. I fucking loved it. I liked the time during the pandemic, and it was a weird time, and it sucked in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And especially for musicians, man, who make their living off, touring and shit like that. But so a year goes by, year and a half, and stuff's starting to happen again. Conventions are starting to come back. I'm like, I don't really want to go anywhere anymore. I love being home. And so I did start doing stuff, but not like I used to.
Right.
And now, so 2025, I'm like, I kind of overdoing conventions completely. Like I don't want to go anywhere now. But it's like I go there to see my friends, and that I only see at conventions and stuff. And I miss that. I miss my friends.
That's the thing. I think being tattooers and having made most of these friends on the road, that's really, unless you go out of your way, like me coming up here to Detroit, like that's the only way you're going to see these people anymore. You know what I mean? And that's where my head's been at lately. It's just like, I don't want to lose touch with my friends. Like I'd say out of everything I've gotten out of tattooing, having met my wife through tattooing was, one of the best things that could have possibly happened to me. And then next to that would be all the friendships and the family that you get to make on the fucking road, and just traveling and just talking, being amongst your peers, and before you know it, you become family. You're not just friends.
Dude, you're brothers, family, and all over the world, every part of the world, I got friends that I consider family. So that's one thing about tattooing, man. It's just one of the many, many, many amazing things tattooing gives you.
Yes, definitely. So as far as traveling, you're still fucking. Now you're in a band. You've been in that band for how many years now? Why don't you tell people what the name of the band? I mean, do you want to get into the band
Yeah.
stuff? Or?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So tell people what the name of the band is and when it started and who else is in it. Because I don't. I mean, I'm sure people know, but you tell them.
Yeah, this is great because it's tied in with tattooing because the guy who started the band is Mario Barth,
Right.
who we were talking about earlier, you know, who tattooed my right sleeve, one of the best tattooers in the world, you know. So he started this band called About Kings, and it's kind of it's got a southern rock vibe to it. I call us a southern rock band, even though we're not from the southeast in the States. Mario's from Austria, and so when I joined the band, Mario, so let me go back to the beginning. So Mario started this band, but it was, the singer was from Austria and he sang in German, Austrian.
Oh, so Mario wasn't the frontman the whole time?
No, at first Mario was a rhythm guitarist.
Oh, okay.
You know, so Mario formed this band with you know, a friend of his from Austria. And then they had, it was Mario, the singer was Austrian, the guitarist was from Croatia, and the drummer and bass player were from Nashville. And so they're kind of from all over.
That's such a weird group of people. How did they all get wrangled together?
So Mario, so when I remember this is in 2019, and I remember Mario sending me a picture of him, a selfie on stage with the band, and there's 50,000 people. It was a festival. And I'm like, holy fuck, you're playing to crowds that big? It was insane. So it was that band, and they were, I believe then they were, the About Kings band was opening up for this guy named Andreas Gabalier.
Okay.
And who he sings in German, Austrian as well.
Okay.
And in Austria and Germany, a little bit of Switzerland and a little bit of Italy, because where they had this.
It's all German, those. They're all close to one another.
Yeah. They were as big as fucking U2 with the Rolling Stones or something. Or
for real.
Metallica,
Okay.
You know, and they're huge. So and Mario, About Kings were opening up for them because they're friends, you know. And so that was in 2019, and that's when they did an album, a full studio album in Austrian language. And then Mario at some point, I think the producer who produced that album, he said, you should do an album with English vocals. And so that's when Mario decided he's gonna sing. And then that's when he hit me up and he goes, asked if I wanted to play rhythm guitar in the band.
Nice.
You know, and I play a little bit of lead in the band still. But so this is the summer of 2021. Mario was in Nashville recording a new album. And the guys in the band they had a bunch of studio cats playing all the instruments.
Oh, so they didn't have an actual band.
Nobody in the actual band played on the album. Like the producer, he's a monster guitar player, but he's a big-time producer in Nashville. He plays guitar in Dolly Parton's band.
Oh wow,
but
cool.
He produced Dolly Parton, produced a bunch of like huge country.
So there's
guys
some
and
actual
stuff.
like legends in this fucking
that
played on it. Yeah.
And so this guy produced the album for Mario, and he played a lot of guitar on the album, and there was some other. It was all Nashville studio musicians who did the album that Mario was singing on. So when Mario the album is done, Mario was doing the vocals. That was the last thing for the record and stuff.
Right.
And while he was down there doing that, he asked if I wanted to come down and like kind of audition for the band and play with the guys and see how it goes. And so I came down and I learned 15 songs in like, 11 days or no, I mean, it's like 13 songs. It's all original stuff and songs I never ever heard.
Nice.
Down there. And so I took 3 songs a night, went in the hotel room, learned 3 songs a night, go to rehearsal the next day, play those 3 songs that night, go learn 3 more. And I did this every night, and it was, learned 11 songs in like, I think it was
So
10 days I learned 11 songs. I forget what it was, but it was 11 songs I learned in 10 days. That's what it was. Anyway, it's a lot of songs to learn at one time, but it worked out where I was good enough to be in the band,
nice.
And so we were rehearsing. The drummer and bass player lived in Nashville, and they did it for a living. So they played on Broadway. It was like
okay, yeah.
bars with bands.
Yeah.
For like a 3 or 4 block stretch.
Right.
So those guys, they played with a bunch of different people all the time. It's fucking amazing. I was definitely the least talented guy in the band, but these guys were seasoned pros.
Well, they probably played with just about any major rock, like any major musician out there too, probably. Studio guys tend to be the best sometimes.
For sure.
The most talented, yeah.
Yeah.
So
that was 21, and then we played our first show. So at that time, the 2 guys from Nashville, Mario's from Vegas, Austria. I'm from Detroit, and the lead guitarist is from Croatia.
Oh shit!
And so that lead guitarist, he played with the first version of the band too, and he also plays in Andreas Gabalier's band. That big band
So
and he still does. He plays with Andreas and About Kings.
Nice.
And he does other stuff too. He makes his living is playing music.
Okay.
So he's one of the best guitarists in the world, bro. He's amazing.
For real? Okay, nice.
So to play with him and all the other guys, like playing with a bunch of guys that are better than you, man, it's cool.
Humbling and very and gives you good experience.
Yeah, it's like working in a tattoo shop where everybody else in the shop's better than you.
So how often are you playing in the States? Because the last couple of gigs you've done have been these big festivals overseas.
Yeah, I mean, the first show I played with them was in Vegas. And it was a cool theater and stuff. It was a sold-out show.
Nice.
It was cool, man. And then that following summer, which is the summer of 2022, we toured with Andreas Gabalier, opening up for him.
Okay.
Again, but with me in the band. And the guy did 1 show a week. So it was.
So were you guys filling the gaps on your own, playing small gigs?
No,
or just
not
an
that
opener?
first summer. We just did 6 weeks. We were there 6 weeks and did 6 shows. When I was off, we were all off all week. And so the drummer and bass player from Nashville, they had hotels in Vienna. Mario kind of put them up in Vienna, and they just pretty much flew to every show, just short flights.
And what were you guys doing while
So I was tattooing a bit.
Oh, that's good.
And so Mario's still got a beautiful shop at Graz, his hometown. And so I was staying in Graz. The other guys were in Vienna, and Alan was going home to Croatia because it's close,
Yeah.
And so I worked a bit, and I ended up staying with a friend of Mario who lives on a mountain right outside of Graz. And this is a friend of his. They've known each other since they were like 6 years old.
Right.
And he was a tattooer, I found out. Him and Mario worked in Mario's first tattoo shop.
Oh shit, okay.
But Bernie, the friend of mine, he asked if I wanted to just stay with him while I was there. And so I just started, during the week, I would stay with him on top of this mountain. And they had a little farm. They had 2 cows, a goat, and they lived off the land. Everything they ate was
from the farm.
From the farm, man. And
that's pretty old world. That's a great
farm,
experience.
That's all it was 2 cows, a goat, some roosters.
Yeah.
They got eggs, and they grew.
That's a great experience, though, to have.
It was really cool. And they had these 3 beautiful dogs. They were fucking giant dogs, and they were the friendliest dogs in the world. But they would gang up on me, man, and to get attention and love, But there's sometimes if I'm getting up and getting a coffee or something, and then I'm not with Michaela and Bernie, they'll all come up to me at the same time, and then they almost gang up on me like I'm trapped. With these 3. I could get away from them, but it was like they were amazing.
It's a lot of work.
But, yeah, dude. But it was a really cool experience doing
Nice.
that. So it was easy, man. It was like vacation. You play one show
And get
a
to
week.
play one show a week and then tattoo in the tattoo in the
And
spare
tattoo
time.
makes money.
That's killer.
Extra money tattoo.
Well, again, that was part of the joy back in the day, being able to go anywhere in the world and fucking tattoo.
Yeah, dude.
That was always a joy.
Remember, we like every town you go and you'll do the show, and then you got a friend, and it's like, hey, you want to do a guest spot?
Dude, I mean, I used to go to Andy Schmidt's in Mönchengladbach, and like I'd go out there probably, in the heyday, probably 2-3 times a year. And then when he started doing his show, well, in the beginning probably once a year, and then when he started his show, easily 2-3 times a year, and then maybe do the show in Gleisdorf, and there was a bunch of other shows, and I'd use Andy's shop as kind of a jumping off point, and we'd do the shows together, and that was a blast, dude. I fucking love that, I miss those days, you know what I mean? It's a bitch. Getting older too, though, travel's a bit more difficult than it used to be.
Yeah, it's a lot more work than it used to be, man.
Especially like you're a black and gray artist, man. You got a fucking knapsack. I got to bring a whole fucking kit with me wherever I go.
That's one of the beauties, one of the awesome things about being just a black and gray artist when you're traveling.
Yeah.
One bottle before, until I started using my set, it's just one bottle of Pelican. You just take a little 4-ounce bottle.
Yeah.
And distilled water you find wherever you're at, and so one bottle of ink and a little bottle of white.
Yeah, I remember the first time years and years and years ago seeing Paul walk up, and he's literally just got a little backpack.
I don't know. I could never travel as light as Paul did.
It's crazy, dude. Like,
he's got his little thing, and he's wear your clothes at, bro. But somehow he packed everything.
Everything in one bag, and it's all carry-on. It's fucking crazy. Like, I don't get it, But good on him, dude. I mean, shit, it would make me want to change to being a black and gray artist if I get away with it.
I admire that. It's like, man, I wish I could do that.
Exactly, dude. Exactly. Well, we're at a good point to stop. I mean, you work predominantly out of your house now. You got a private studio. You cool with saying that? Okay, so you don't want to be telling it. I can cut that out if you want. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I shouldn't do that.
All right, we'll cut that out. So you have a private studio here outside of Detroit. What I'll do is I'll put all the information down in the description, so how people can reach you and stuff like that.
Okay, cool.
And I assume people reach out to you via email and you get back to them. And
yeah, I usually do it by email, like or any messaging thing on social media.
And as far as like, again, you said you cut back on shows dramatically, but you do or may have some stuff coming up before the end of the year. You said you might.
Yeah, I'm still going to do, I'm going to say I still want to do maybe 3 or 4 shows max
a year
just to get out there. So Detroit's one of them. So I may do a Tony Rommel show in October.
Yeah, the first weekend of October, I believe it is, right? Yeah. So I'll be there as well. It should be fun in Brooklyn, New York.
Yeah.
I think it's just going to be. I think it's going to be a throwback to New York, to what the first New York shows used to be. That's Tony's intent, is to bring it back to those first couple of shows in New York. I'm excited for him, to be honest with you. I want to see it succeed. So hopefully it's a good show. So hopefully, with any luck, you'll be in Brooklyn, and then after that is most likely going to be Detroit, which is like right after the New Year.
There's no set plans, but I know, Detroit will probably be the first one in 2026, but there'll probably be maybe 2 more, I mean, I never say never, I may do 6 or something, but I want to keep it at around 3 or 4 max.
I think that's a good way to keep your feet in the pool without getting fucking your dick wet.
Yeah.
That's a really crude way to put that, but that's what came to mind for whatever reason.
Hey, but I just love being home, bro. And I've got a girlfriend and I got a puppy now.
Dude, that dog is gorgeous.
Yeah, bro.
So,
I should bring him out and show everybody. Nah,
he's sleeping. Don't wake him up. So
don't wake the beast.
Yeah, exactly. Kong. So.
King Kong's his name. Yep, Kong for short.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate me having me out, man. I really do. Thank you so much for sitting.
Bro, thank you for coming out, man. I really appreciate it.
No problem. This was a lot of fun.
Fucking great to see you.
It was just nice catching up regardless.
Yeah,
so,
totally, man.
All right. Hey, everybody. Thank you again for stepping in, sitting in, and listening to us shoot the shit about the old days. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to put all of Bob's information in the description below. Like and follow, subscribe, all that shit. Spread the word. Thank you very much. And see you when I see you.
All right, see y'all, man. Joe, thanks again, buddy.
No problem, dude. Thank you.